Baldur's Gate 3 has a plethora of ways to make characters, with a million build guides telling you how to make or combine classes at different points in the game for the maximum amount of efficiency. Hell, I have tons of these videos. But what if you don't want so much complexity? What if you want to take one class and stick with it? Well, you're in luck because some of the most broken classes in the game are exactly that way. In this video today, I'm going to go over some of my favorite mono or pure class builds on a very high level. Since there isn't much to them, I'm not going to do this in my usual way of breaking every little piece down. I'm going to do this relatively low tech too. I'll be using a build planner to run you through the 12 levels and loosely talk about gear. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by uploading the knowledge in my videos. So with that being said, I'll be talking about the Light Cleric, Battlemaster Fighter, Draconic Fire Sorcerer, Open Hand Monk, and Moon Druid. That is by no means a complete list, because Wizard is amazing as a pure class. There's the Throwing Barbarian, the Lore Bard, the Sword Bard, Eldritch Knight Thrower, Beastmaster, the list goes on. Also, each class we talk about today can of course be made better with multi-classing, but that's not the point of this video. And if you have any really good pure mono classes you want to recommend, let it be known in the comment section below. You can navigate or jump ahead to any of the aforementioned classes using the chapters in the timeline below. And if you find this video helpful, please don't forget to leave a comment, like, and or subscribe. Each one of those things is a great way to support the channel, and it is entirely free. Also, if you need help with any other subject in Baldur's Gate 3, I have my entire playlist linked below and in the upper right hand corner. But let's get started on my favorite pure classes in Baldur's Gate 3. Moving over here to our build guide, our build planner, I'll be sharing these in the comment section below, or I'm sorry, in the description below. So if you want to actually take a look at everything we build out here today, you'll be able to just simply have it up as a form of reference. But what we'll be doing here real quick is just kind of building things up from ground zero. Now, with our character here, it doesn't matter, of course, with race. Please choose whatever you want. If there is the thing about race, I'll bring it up in that specific build. But like I always say, just choose whatever you want. I'll click a drow just so it doesn't say Dragonborn for every single one. Now, for our ability scores, we are going with a light cleric, so we're going to focus on wisdom here. I want to bring this all the way up to 17. This is a really cool build planner. You can see that represented over here if you're having like a little confusion as to how that will look once I press the +2. And another big one is going to be Constitution. Constitution here is going to help us out with our concentration. That's always going to be a big thing. I talk about that quite a bit. And we're, of course, going to be focusing on any kind of dexterity to try and pull initiative for 1. That's our biggest one, right? Because our initiative right now is a -1. But of course, as well, this is going to help us out with dexterity as well if we're not wearing heavy armor. That's always going to be the big thing there, right? So let's go ahead and just put our dexterity to 14. And this is where I'm going to have a conversation here about our charisma. If this is your front-facing character, maybe you just want to throw this on Shadowheart. That's what I did for my playthrough. She was just a pure light cleric, and it was awesome. Then I would want to pull probably less points out of dexterity, assuming I'm maybe wearing heavy armor. But there's a lot of really great medium armor, especially all of the Justiciar armor that you could just slap on and be just fine. So let's go with like something like this. That maybe kind of fits the bill for now. So this gives us 12 dexterity for a little bit more on our initiative and our armor class. 16 in constitution is going to help us out immensely with our concentration and it's our health pool. And we have some nice wisdom here. So if we want to try and put our charisma up a little bit more through whatever means, we definitely can. We can get that to 14. I don't like having things at a 13, but basically here we want that wisdom up so we can get stuff like the hag's hair and other things to push our wisdom in. Now for our class, we're just going with a cleric, and that cleric is of course going to be a light domain cleric. Now the light domain cleric is often called a blaster, and that's important here, right? But the big one too is of course warding flares. You shield yourself with divine light, use a reaction to impose disadvantage on an attacker, possibly causing their attack to miss. So this gets better and better because yes, we're going to be like a ranged DPS, right, at magic range DPS, but really what we get the benefit here is also some defensive characteristics that we can throw across the party because this evolves at level 6. And for our cantrips, since this is not going to be so heavy on, oh, you got to take these cantrips or this and that, you just kind of choose what makes sense for you and your party's makeup. I've tried to talk about these classes loosely like they might be on the same party. So a lot of the items don't interact with each other, or the builds themselves don't quite interact with each other, for the exception of the open hand monk, but we'll get back to that. We'll get to that when we get to that. So you have all these things you can jump into and still have a pretty viable party. But I don't like resistance. I'll go with Sacred Flame, even though it's going to fucking miss. But we'll go ahead and level up here. And we just are going to take this all the way to 4. And we'll get this big one here is going to be crucial to the build. Radiance of the Dawn. The sun's divine power dispels any magical darkness. On save, targets will still take half damage. So it's telling me right there, 2d10 plus level radiant damage. So the nice thing is that it's going to get really, really, really crispy. It's really, I no pun intended for radiant damage. It's going to be really, really strong. And it's going to be Channel Divinity, which is simply reset on a short rest. It's going to be a huge source of damage because of our item choices for this build. Now, I'll save that usually when we talk about things for the end of this section, but it's pertinent here because Radiance of the Dawn does radiant damage. And our items, not all the builds we're going to talk about are going to have a full suite of items like this because really you don't need it for most of these classes. You can just kind of pick and choose what you want, which I find to be really fun. But for the light cleric, it gets online in a big way at Act 1. You get the luminous armor, you get the luminous gloves, you get the Holy Lance helm. That's all in Act 1, so you're going to lean into those things. And I'm going to go more into that in the item section, but for those that know what those items are, you can understand how this is really going to be huge as a form of damage for the character. So Radiance of Dawn is huge there. Then we get of course, we're going to get Scorching Ray, which is going to be great. We're going to get access to Hold Person, which is going to be a really strong ability that we can use. Even Spiritual Weapon is going to help you out the entirety of the game because you can just summon it down. It's a bonus action, and you can keep it as a level 2 spell, and it's just basically another body on the field to distract the enemies. And as we jump into level 4, we can choose a new feat. And we'll go with ability improvement and go into wisdom because this is our damage source, right? This is how we're actually pumping a lot of damage into our capabilities, and that's going to be nice and huge for us, right? Just choose whatever you want cantrip wise, and we'll keep leveling up. I'm just going to bring it all the way up here to 8. So into 5, we're going to get access to Fireball, which is nice because you can see that Fireball is not a typical spell that you're going to get as a cleric. And what's nice about this is we now kind of have a kit that is 1 part cleric, 1 part wizard, more or less, right? So Fireball's in there now, and we have Spirit Guardians, which is just one of the best spells in the whole damn game. And you can choose this to be either necrotic damage or radiant damage. And remember, we're going to really focus on lots of radiant damage from our actual Channel Divinity and from the Spirit Guardians spell. So we just get so much out of it. Another great spell here is Glyph of Warding. Pop this one down to have just any kind of elemental effect to give us a lot of really fun capabilities. I'm always a fan of Mass Healing Word. This is a really cool way to actually be a cleric and not just simply a blaster. And we get Daylight by default. So we have a lot of really fun stuff. Daylight's going to really help you out in Act 2. And I'm breaking this up and talking about these things in these specific level brackets because remember, level 5, you're not quite in Act 2 yet. You're going to be just about ready to go there. So this is where a lot of these spells are going to be helpful. A lot of people say, like, I want to see the breakdown from level to level in these specific points of the game. This is why I'm talking so much about these spells and how they're going to be pertinent in these locations. And we jump over here to improve Warding Flare like I was talking about. So that Warding Flare that you use your reaction to impose a disadvantage, well, now you can do that to anyone on your team. When an enemy attacks an ally, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on the attack roll, possibly causing their attacks to miss. Really, really nice. Level 7, we're going to get access to Wall of Fire, which is a really nice wall spell, and Guardian of Faith, which is just a really good capability to kind of pop down in maybe a doorway, something like that, where they have to walk through and do damage to this thing or get dealt damage to by it, whatever it is. A really great ability. By and large, though, you're kind of just looking for more spell slots to make, like, your Fireball stronger, or did I not choose this? Do I have to click a button here? Oh, you can ready it at a different part of this. You can click this and ready it. But you just want to make Spirit Guardians better and better. That's really what we want, is just higher spell levels to make better Spirit Guardians, and we want to keep Spirit Guardians online. So now we get potent spell casting too. Your God grants you even more intense power. You can add your Wisdom modifier to the damage you deal with cantrips. So now your cantrips are even more spicy. For our feat, we're going to go with Warcaster. Now, why I like Warcasters, you gain advantage on saving throws to maintain concentration on a spell. That is what is so important about this, because we want that to keep our Spirit Guardians online. You also get a reaction for Shocking Grasp, which is cool, but we already have a really nice reaction, and we don't want to waste that, right? We want to use that improved Warding Flare. It's going to be really cool in that instance. We'll level up here. more into 9. This gives us access to Flame Strike, which is a really goddamn good ability. And remember, it does fire and radiant damage. You've got Destructive Wave, which is also good because it can do thunder or radiant damage, you choose. So much radiant can come out of this. Planar Binding is really cool, but this gets cooler at level 11. Flame Strike is already there. Dispel Good and Evil is there. Where is it? Contagion is really fun to have a different. You can choose basically a plague to afflict them, and Mask Cure Wounds is always awesome. One more level here. So Divine Intervention, we can get one cast of a really cool spell, and that spell can be something like getting the Deva Mace if you want to do that. Whatever you want from this. I saved it for like near the end of the game to get like, I think it was like a special feast that basically gives everyone a long rest. There's a bunch of cool things you can do from this. It's just a really cool thing you get as a cleric at level 10. And, just Thaumaturgy rather than Resistance. Level 11 is our final bit of fun. Level 12 is just going to be another feat. But here's where we get access to Planar Ally. And trust me, use the Jin. You can do a Jin, a Deva, or a Cambion. The Jin is just so good. This one's also really good. Hero's Feast is awesome. Great Undead is kind of cool. Harm is whatever. Blade Barrier is really, really, really fun too. But the Planar Ally is really awesome. This is probably the one you're going to use because you summon this guy up and it lasts until a long rest, right? So you've got that, and you have so many means to basically keep your level 6 spell slot online with all the items that restore a spell slot. So you can use this and then keep having that spell slot back online for whatever else you want. And since you are a cleric, you can cast this spell and then remove it and put another level 6 spell in its place. So always really cool there. And for our last feat here, depending on what you've done with all of your gear and everything, you could do ability improvement here, right? But this only works to a max of 20. So let's say you miss the Hag's Hair. Oh, damn. Well, okay, we can go ahead and put this into Wisdom right now if we want, right? And put the other point here into Charisma. And that would put our Wisdom at 20 and our Charisma at 14. So now we get the benefits of that. I would say this is really going to be dealer's choice with this last feat. Just choose whatever one kind of makes sense for how you want to approach the character and what you want to do. But there's a lot of really cool things you can do with this last feat to get a little bit more out of the character. But now let's talk about those items. So with those items, we have our Holy Lance Helm. This is what I was talking about earlier. And this is all Act 1 stuff. You can swap these out later, of course, but creatures who miss their attack rolls against the wearer must make a DC 14 Dex saving throw or take 1d4 radiant damage. And that cascades into this. When the wearer deals radiant damage, so the helmet will do it, your Radiance of Dawn will do it, which is your Channel Divinity, your Spirit Guardians will do it. You have so much access to radiant damage. They cause a radiant shockwave, and the radiant shockwave will apply radiant orbs, and radiant orbs for every single turn remaining, it is -1 to their attack. So it's huge. It's huge because then this, when the wearer deals radiant damage, the target receives 1 turn of radiating orb. So you put these two things together and there's just so much radiating orb going on to them. And you can use the Coruscation Ring. When the wearer deals spell damage while illuminated by a light source, which you can very easily do with the spell Light, they also inflict radiating orb upon the target for 2 turns. When the wearer deals an additional 2 points of radiant damage against the creatures that are illuminated. So you can see how these things just cascade together for a just complete destructive character in a pure light cleric. And you can use Amulet of Restoration. I like this one because it just gives some more healing, Cloak of Displacement just to help out a little defense right there. But you can see these items all pretty much in they're pretty much all in Act 1. Or it's right in the Moonrise Towers. It's one or the other. And this character gets online and it dominates throughout the rest of the game. And you can swap out items as you need them. Maybe move this with the one that gives you Blade Ward that you get in Act 3. You can swap out these things as your need for removing radiating orb becomes a necessity or not. But you could stick with this whole gear set and be just fine the entirety of the game. So our next one here is a Battlemaster Fighter. For our race, I'll recommend Half Orc just because of savage attacks. When you land a critical hit with a melee weapon, your damage dice are tripled instead of doubled. Always great. And for our abilities, you know what's going to happen here. We're just going to go right hard in the paint on strength. I'm going to assume you want to wear like heavy armor. So we'll just put dexterity to 10 so we don't have any kind of penalties. And we're going to get our constitution up to 16. Like everything else outside of that is whatever you want. If this is your face character, put a little bit more into charisma, or maybe put like that. So that way it's harder for your character to get mind controlled, quote unquote. I just don't like having my wisdom at an 8 because then it's a -1 to the roll for any time something like a hold person kicks in or anything like that, where they try to, that looks a little bit better, when they try to maintain control of the character. So I would take advantage of just a little bit more into the wisdom. But ability is pretty straightforward. I got this last point. I hate when it's an uneven number. This is pretty straightforward. It's a fighter. We're gonna blitz through this one very quickly, and our fighting style is going to be great weapon fighting, but it doesn't need to be. You can do whatever you want. What makes this character strong is the big, awesome numbers from doing two-handed weapons. But if you want to do two-weapon fighting, it's not going to be that much weaker. So go great weapon fighting, because this is the big one here of when you roll a 1 or a 2 on a damage die for an attack with a two-handed weapon. That messed me up. The wrapping on that messed me up. Two-handed melee weapon, that die is re-rolled once. So when we use the feat of great weapon fight, or two-handed weapon fighting, whatever it is, or great weapon master, it's not as hurtful, right? It doesn't really penalize us that much. And we just simply level up. There's really nothing big that we're going to get, right, aside from action surge every single set of levels. You'll choose a subclass. We're going to go Battlemaster for our maneuvers here. And I like stuff like precision attacks. You can spend a superiority die to add it to the result to an attack roll. That's always great. Pushing attack is cool for the ability to displace people. Riposte is amazing because it weaponizes our reaction, so we can use a reaction to actually do some damage to things. So I'm going to do... Where's the other one? Fainting attack is really good. You can use both your action and bonus action on a turn to attack a target with an advantage and deal an additional superiority die of damage. It's really nice to do a little bit more there. Disarming strike is great because it removes their weapon. Where's one that knocks them prone? Trip attack here that knocks them prone, and when they're prone, it's really easy to do tons of damage to them. Menacing attack because it can frighten them. Maneuvering attack is cool because then it gives movement to other characters. So a lot of really great capabilities in just that first 3 levels right there. Right now we have so much party utility with just this. So let's level up here to level 4. We're going to go to ability improvement for sure and just put it into strength here. A lot of people will tell you to go to Great Weapon Master, and I've said it in videos, but I think now the more experience I have with the game, especially as I play in honor mode, I don't want the penalization of Great Weapon Master up front. I want to be able to hit harder up front and come back to Great Weapon Master. And especially since we're going pure warrior, we, rather than getting 3 feats, we get 4 feats, just like the rogue gets 4 feats rather than 3. They're the only 2 classes that get 4 as a pure class. So it's really, really nice here. So we're going to take 2 more levels. We're going to get an extra feat, but we of course going to get extra attack at level 5, always crucial for our melee class. And now I'll pick up Great Weapon Master. You can wait still here. You could wait all the way to 8 and it wouldn't hurt you, but this is a toggleable. Remember, you don't have to turn this on, but having the ability to turn it on around level 6, when we now have the ability to swing twice in a turn, and we have that Great Weapon Master, or I'm sorry, Great Weapon fighting style, it's not as punishing. So I'm fine with it at level 6. I don't like to get it before extra attack if I can prevent it. Into level 7, we get more battle maneuvers. So we're going to go with like Disarming Strike here. You can get something like Evasive Footwork, so you can evade attacks by imposing disadvantage on melee attacks against you for a round. Goading attack is not so cool. And Rally is not so cool either. 8 temp hit points? No, you can only get 10 hit points from one source. So it's just kind of not as awesome of a thing. Sweeping attack is cool for just another way to do a little bit of AoE. But I'm probably going to go with Menacing Attack. It's pretty fun. We'll level up here to level 8. And now I'm going to go with... Where's Savage? Where is Savage? It's alphabetical, and that is not where S is. Savage Attacker. So when making weapon attacks, you roll your damage dice twice and use the highest result. This goes so well with your innate as an orc. So we're just pushing further here. I'm just going to bring it all the way to 12. So 9 brings us Indomitable. Whenever you fail a saving throw, you can roll again using this new result instead. Any saving throw. So it's really strong here. You can see that this character has so much. Improved combat superiority. So the size of your superiority die increases to 1d10. So we have a ton more of our superiority die to take advantage of. And now we can really just kind of jump into the ones that maybe weren't as cool the first go around, right? So now we can maybe get Maneuvering Attack to get a little bit more ability. So the way Maneuvering Attack is, you spend a superiority die to make an attack that deals an additional superiority die of damage. Cool. But on a hit, select which friendly creature will gain half its movement speed. So this helps to maybe pull someone out of a bad situation because it will not provoke attacks of opportunity, or help get someone into a close combat to do some damage. And remember, all these work with ranged as well. So you have a lot of different capabilities that you can use here. Oh, where's the other one I was looking at? Maneuvering attack. Pushing attack is great for being able to basically displace things. Where is it? Distracting attack is also cool for distract your target, giving your allies advantage on their next attack roll against the target, especially if you have like an open hand monk in there. It can be pretty damn awesome. But I'm going to go with pushing attack just to be able to displace things. And our last feat here at level 12, just really go with whatever you want. Alert is a really good one just to get a ton of initiative, and that way you can really make sure you're almost always going first. It's a great option. If you didn't get your Hag's Hair or anything to get your strength up to 20 some way, shape, or form, there's lots of ways that the game offers it to you. You can go ahead and go with the improved ability score again here and put it into charisma and strength. There's lots of different ways you can approach this. Pretty much go with what makes sense for you. Are you going with heavy armor and you really need more durability? Go with heavy armor master. Your strength is increased by 1, putting us to 20 if we don't have it, right? Because it says to a max of 20. Incoming damage from non-magical attacks also decreases by 3 while you're wearing heavy armor. It's just such a, lucky is a good one. There's a lot of really great options here depending on how you're going to approach the character. I'll click alert because it's just so damn good. And really for items here, I only have one item selected. It's the Gauntlets of Surging Accuracy. When you use Action Surge, gain a 1d4 bonus to attack rolls for the rest of your turn. So you start the turn and use Action Surge. It's great. It basically just turned on a bless for you. Another really good one, though, as once you get into Act 3, is the Gauntlets of the War Master. Targets have disadvantage on saving throws against your maneuver and weapon actions. This is such a strong class that I don't need to fill this with tons of things to create a synergy to link into. It's why the Battlemaster Fighter is so strong and so good, is that it just simply needs to be played. That's it. This could be Lizelle, this could be you, this could be any character. All you need to do is use your maneuvers, and this is going to impose a disadvantage on saving throws against those maneuvers and weapon actions, meaning any of the innate abilities of that weapon are just built into it. I guess, I will say this, just because it's a great sword, right? Baldur's Giant Slayer. There, I'll throw that into this thing here so it's there for you when you take a look. But this class is going to be strong with any armor you put on it, any boots, any cloak, any helmet. And that's why it's cool, because you could do this alongside a paladin or any other class that is also a melee class that uses a lot of the same things, and you're not going to take from this class's competency. Like the light cleric really relies on a lot of the abilities of a light cleric to be strong, but it can be made even better with all the radiating orb stuff from the not luminous damage, from the radiant damage, right? This just simply needs to be put into play, do the damage, have some fun. There is your Battlemaster Fighter. Next up is a pure open hand monk. And we're going to talk about two different things when it comes to our feat selection. And it won't change our abilities per se, but it's worth bringing up because a lot of people are going to say, go Tavern Brawler. I'm going to tell you, do what you want, because I think seeing every single open hand monk build go into Tavern Brawler is just exhausting. It makes you think that you can't play the open hand monk without going to Tavern Brawler. If you go into Tavern Brawler, and for those that don't know, Tavern Brawler, what it does is it doubles this number with and adds it to your damage whenever you're using unarmed strikes and throwing weapons and improvised weapons. So you would use elixirs to jack you up to 27 strength, which just gives you a huge amount of additional melee damage. I'm going to present two options to you. You just go ahead and do whatever you want. For our race, I just chose tieflings because they're fucking cool. And our abilities here, no strength, because remember, we are a monk. And even if we don't go with Tavern Brawling, we're still going to go this route, more than likely. And our wisdom is going to go up too. Now, I want my wisdom to be higher because we're going to pull a lot of damage from our wisdom. And our constitution is going to be higher as well, because we're going to also get some benefits from that. You know what? I'll do this. I'll put a little bit into there. I'm just going to assume your character is the character we're building right now is your face character. That's why I want charisma at 10. You can put it higher. You can reduce from dexterity if you want. I probably wouldn't do that because that's where a lot of your AC, your initiative comes from. I reduce it from constitution, if anything. Remember too, you are a monk. So being a monk means we have there unarmored defense. Your reflexes are blah, blah, blah. While not wearing armor, you add your wisdom modifier to your armor class in addition to your dexterity. So our armor class is a +3 and a +3. So our AC right now, you can see, is a 16, which is great, right? That's just right off the gate without anything on. Yeah, without anything on. It's like, do I have any armor on here that's going to affect that? So going over here, right now we're just at level 1 monk. Remember too, all of our stuff is going to be done with dexterity until we decide otherwise. And the big thing here is flurry of blows here, punch twice in rapid succession, bonus action, key points, cool things there. And we're getting into level 3 where we choose our Way of the Open Hand, which gives us flurry of blows, stagger, push, and topple. Topple being the biggest one because it can knock things prone. Basically, you start your turn off and use topple as your bonus action to hopefully knock something prone. And then once it's prone, you can increase your chance to get critical hits on it and everything. It's just going to be absolutely beautiful. You also get cool deflect missile here, which is fun. Into level 4, we're going to increase our ability improvement. Oh, well, I should say, this is where you're going to decide if you're going to go with a Tavern Brawling Monk or if you're going to go with a Dexterity Monk. If you go with Tavern Brawler, you would choose Tavern Brawler right here. I'm not going to do it for this build because, like I said, everyone who does a Monk build is always Tavern Brawler. When you make an unarmed attack, blah, 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 your Strength modifier is added twice to the damage and attack rolls. So you would do it right here, and you would put this into Strength or Constitution, and you'd probably offset this a little bit to make it work better, right? You put it into Constitution because your Strength won't matter. We're going to take an elixir. You would then take elixirs of Hill Giant Strength in Act 1 until you get into the latter parts of Act 1 or the beginning of Act 2 where you can get Cloud Giant Strength. I think it's actually, I don't think you actually can get it in Act 1. I think you have to wait till Act 2. Either way, Hill Giant Strength sets your strength to 21. Cloud Giant Strength sets it to 27. You just simply go to town with those elixirs. They last until a long rest, and you can buy them from Auntie Ethel, and you can buy them. You can buy the materials from Omelium and the other dwarf alchemist in the Underdark. So basically, if you want to cheese that, every time you level up a companion, it resets all the vendors. So you just buy a companion, level it up, and then release it, and you keep doing that and keep going and farming the materials. It's a really shitty way to play the game because you're kind of over gaming it, but there's plenty of ways to get access to elixirs that last until long rest. It sets your strength, you're good to go. I am not going to do that. We're just going to go with ability improvement score here and just put it right here into wisdom because that's going to help our armor class and it'll eventually help our damage quite a bit. Level 5, we're going to get extra attack, and we also get stunning strike, which is going to be really nice. Stuns things, as you would assume. And level 6 here, we're going to get key empowered strikes. So this gives us one of the most important abilities, manifestation of body, mind, and soul. So we can either do necrotic damage, 1d4 plus our wisdom in necrotic damage, or psychic, or in radiant. This time we're going to use radiant here to help out with the gloves of belligerent sky, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So you can see this is a flat increase to our damage of a minimum of 1 point plus our wisdom modifier right now, which is at a +4. I'm going to assume you've probably got an Anti-Ethel's Hair by this point in the game at level 6. So you actually would probably be at level 20. So this would be a +5. So it's 6 at bare minimum with radiant damage added into the build. It's every single time a fist touches something. So those flurry of blows, which does multiple hits, every single one has got this manifestation. It's so fucking huge. It's awesome. Then we get evasion here, which is going to help us out with spells. Stillness of mind here. You cannot be, if you are charmed or frightened, you automatically cast Stillness of mind to remove the condition. Into our feet here, this is going to depend too on what you're approaching, but a really good one is just simply alert, because you want this character to go first and fast as you can. With 16 dexterity, they're going to have a good initiative, but this almost guarantees it, and at the same time, it really brings a lot of fighting power home to the character. Leveling up. We're going to get unarmored movement here, so we're moving even further. And martial arts deft strikes here. So attacks with monk weapons and armed strikes deal the monk's martial arts damage unless their normal damage is higher. And we get the key resonation. So key resonation is really cool here because you hit a creature with your bare fist, making the key in its body resonate with damage, with yours. What does that mean, guy? Well, you do either the punch or the punch bonus action. So you can punch a bunch of things. And this jumps into your extra attack we just got at level 5, right? So I punched 2 targets with my basic attack. They both are now key resonated. Then I use this ability, Key Resonation Blast, and it doesn't cost me an action or a bonus action, just costs me a key point. Those targets then explode 3d6 force damage. It's awesome. So basically you create a bunch of AoE force damage shockwaves around the map with using all 3 of these or all 2 and 3 of these capabilities, I guess you could say. So you could go 1 action for this, which would then give you your extra attack. That's 2 different punches to different targets. You use your bonus action to a 3rd target, and then you blast them all with this. It is really, really fun. It just controls the battlefield. You can absolutely melt everything. And remember, it's also all getting additional radiant damage. Purity of Body, improved unarmored movement, and we'll get all the way up to level 11 here for Tranquility. Long rest around you with an Aura of Peace, granting you Sanctuary. And of course, our last feat here is just going to be Dealer's Choice. You know, keep in mind stuff, just in case you might be thinking of it. Savage Attacker when making weapon attacks. So just kind of keep that in mind. You can't choose anything ability improvement wise onto your onto your wisdom. What a lot of people will do actually is will go with dual wielder here. And dual wielder, what you can see is you can use 2 weapon fighting even if the weapons you're wielding aren't light. You have +1 bonus to armor class while wielding a melee weapon in each, and you cannot dual wield heavy weapons. And then a lot of people will go and use 2 staves to try and get a ton of additional utility from the staff into the character. So we'll do whatever you want for your last feat here. Have some fun with it. You could even do something with charisma, like actor, to help you out with anything conversationally, whatever it is. But this brings us to our talk about our items here. And it's very light, but there is a little bit of repeat. And I'm putting them here in case you maybe are just using one of these builds. I just wanted to show it. The Coruscation Ring and the Ring of Spiteful Thunder are all going to key off of this, the Gloves of Belligerent Skies. When the wearer deals thunder, lightning, or radiant damage, inflict 2 turns of reverberation. Now, reverberation will, after you get 5 stacks, it can daze a target, and it is absolutely great. It's one of those things that can really get out of hand very quickly. Well, not out of hand in a bad way, but essentially what it does here, right, is you get the 5 stacks of it. And every time you hit someone with it, when they have 1 stack, it's a -1 penalty to their strength, dex, and constitution saving throws. And once they get 5 stacks, they take 1d4 thunder damage, and they have to succeed a saving throw, or they get, it's not dazed, they get knocked prone. Spiteful Thunder is the dazed thing. And again, knocking things prone, they're going to take more damage in melee from you. So you knock things prone, and then it's just a going to town on them. And the best thing is when the wearer deals this damage. So if you do a flurry of blows, that's going to be 4 stacks because you're going to inflict 2 turns of reverb upon the target. Flurry of blows is going to be 2 hits of damage. That's 4. Look at this. When a creature with reverb deals damage to the wearer, the creature needs to make a constitution saving throw or become dazed. When the wearer deals thunder damage to a reverberating creature, it becomes dazed unless it succeeds a constitution saving throw. And when the wearer inflicts a condition upon a hostile creature, they inflict 2 turns of reverb. Trust me, you use those that flurry of blows, you're just going to be knocking things prone left and right, and then you're going to have tons of crit damage to be able to pour into them. And the Coruscation Ring is just another form of radiant damage here. When the wearer deals spell damage while illuminated by a light source, they also inflict radiating orb upon the target for 2 turns. So it's just another way to add more penalties into them by helping reduce their overall damage. I got this confused with the luminous glow ring, or this callous glow ring. When the wearer deals an additional 2 points of radiant damage against creatures that are illuminated. So you would wear that one. Got those 2 mixed up. I apologize there. But it's just more radiant damage. It's more ways to just pour tons of reverb onto targets. And you could kind of argue that this is a good build, but it's really a reverb build that is really good on its own. We're just adding in the open hand monk capabilities that are already just stupid strong. You're going to be hitting through the roof with this. And there's unfortunately nothing on here I can really correlate it with. I thought there was your weapon does this much damage right now, but I don't think I can see it. No, I thought this had more transparency on that, but unfortunately not. But still, you're going to have a ton of fun. This is the build that I used in my honor mode, but I did a 9-3. I mixed it up and threw 3 levels of of Rogue into Thief to get an extra bonus action, which is extra Flurry of Blows. It is absolutely disgusting. Next up here is our Draconic Fire Sorcerer. And you know, a big one is a Storm Sorcerer, and it's still very good. Storm Sorcerer, I would argue, is probably a little bit easier to set up because you just simply need to get things wet, and then all of your Thunder and Lightning abilities do double damage, right? Everything's wet, boom, boom, bam. This, you kind of have to use combustion oil or arsonist oil to really ramp up even more damage. But even if you don't set things up, you're totally fine to get a lot of damage out of this build because of the way that Ray of Fire interacts with a lot of stuff to give you Arcane Acuity. So, well, the big one here, the big one, I don't know why I said that. The one thing we're going to have fun with, though, is using Dragonborn, because we never get to have a cool Dragonborn showcase, and I just wanted to do that here, because we then choose a sub-race, which gives us Draconic Ancestry Fire, the blood of ancient dragons, so through those veins, you are resistant to fire damage. It's a cool thing. You're going to have it through being a sorcerer anyway, but it also gives you basically another form of fire damage in your breath attack. You could go Brass Dragon, I think Gold Dragon, or Red Dragon. Do whatever one you like the color of, or don't. You don't choose the race I'm recommending. It's just a quick little recommendation here. So once you've chosen that, we'll come over to our abilities, and the big thing here is Charisma. Nothing else matters on this list aside from Constitution for our concentration. Then following that, maybe Dexterity, of course, right, for some additional armor class as well as Initiative, and the last 2 points. You know how much I don't like to be controlled. What does that mean? Well, I put it into Wisdom regardless, but Intelligence doesn't matter, Strength doesn't matter, so it's a caster, right? So have fun with it. For our levels, we're just going straight up as a Sorcerer, and as a Sorcerer, we're going to go with Draconic Bloodline here. And this is going to get really fun at level 6, but this also automatically sets our base armor class to 13, so you can see we have 17 AC on this character. For cantrips, have fun, but definitely choose Firebolt because we want to focus on a lot of fire with this build. But Shocking Grasp is still really good, and we're going to get that from Warcaster in just a little bit anyway. But still, Blade Ward can be good for defensive ones. Bone Chill's fun. Light is a great thing. Illuminating things with light is a really strong capability, especially as you go into Act 2 where you need lots of light in general. But whatever you want, go with whatever. Or other things, just go with whatever you want to get those cantrips online. For our spells here, since we are, it's Draconic Ancestry, there we go. I was like, where is this? So we're going to choose a Draconic Ancestry, right? And we can choose black, blue, brass, bronze, so on and so forth. Brass, I think it should be Sleep, yeah. Sleep, I don't like. It loses efficiency really after like level 3 or 4 because it's hit point based. So what I'm going to go with here, it's gold, just to show you, gives you Disguise Self. And the last one is red, and that's what we're going to go with. It's alphabetical, and I keep messing that up because it gives us Burning Hands. It's a really strong early capability to have. 3d6 fire damage at the beginning of the game. I love it. And then our spells, it removes it as a spell, so we can choose something a little bit better here. We have some good options. I always am really a big fan of Magic Missile because it will always auto hit, and we don't have any good early fire damage in the game, so we're not going to be missing out on any options over here. But Chromatic Orb is cool to get a bunch of different elements. How did I say elements into the mix? This says thunder damage, but remember this can be fire or whatever, and it also puts that source on the ground. So you can choose whatever you want in this situation here, whatever makes sense for you. Shield, though, is another really good one because it's just a reaction that you're going to use, and it increases your arm class by 5 and it shuts down Magic Missile. You can use this as just a really great capability to shut down whatever it is. It might make sense to it just depends on your party makeup to not use shield. Like if you need more actual ranged damage from this build, maybe go with Chromatic Orb just to open that up so that you're not just having one character only have Magic Missile. So think about those things as you're kind of making this build out. Level 2, we'll choose shield now. Oh, nope. There it is. And now we get our meta magic. So this is the big part of being a sorcerer, right? Our meta magic, we have all of our sorcery points that we can have fun with. So careful spell. Now I'm not going to hurt any of my friends. Distant spell increases that range, so now I can actually cast Burning Hands at range. Increase the range of spells by 50%. Melee spells get a range of 9 meters. So I can actually do Burning Hands, not next door. What does that mean? Extended spell now too as well. Double the duration of conditions, summons, and services. Twin spell. Spells that only target one can now target an additional creature. I loved Twin spell. And Careful spell might be really good for later when we start to get access to Fireball. But maybe right here, not as much sense, but I'll just take it because I'm going to take it down the road. Now for another spell here, we get access to all this great stuff. Hold Person is just so strong, but we want Scorching Ray. It hurls 3 rays of fire. Each ray is considered a different damage instance. And we're going to talk about how that's going to be important a little bit. More meta magic here, though. We get also now Heightened Spell. The targets of spells that require saving throws have disadvantage on their first saving throw. Quicken Spell, spells that cost an action, cost a bonus action instead. Always amazing. And Subtle Spell, so you can cast when silenced. I'm actually going to do this. I forgot. Careful Spell we're going to undo. And I'm going to do... No, I already got it. Never mind. No, I was looking for this Twin Spell. So Twin Spell will affect Ray of Fire by making it so that rather than Ray of Fire only hitting 3 targets, it will now hit 4 or shoot 4 times, whatever you want. It adds an additional shot into the mix, which is great. Our ability improvement, you know what's going to happen. Or feat, it's going to be ability improvement, and it's going into charisma. That is going to be the way that we do it. But now we're at level 4 too. So we get advantage of a lot of really great abilities in here. Hold Person is what I would definitely recommend the most. The rest of this is all really good, but Hold Person is just so strong. And it's our first concentration ability too. So that's nice that we're not going to have to compete with other capabilities on this list. We'll go level up here, level 5, choose another spell where we get Counterspell, which is so good. Counterspell is going to be one of the most important spells you can use in the entire game because you're going to be able to shut down other casters. So we're going to take Counterspell first, and I'm going to swap off. You know what? I'll swap off Chromatic Orb for Fireball. There it is. I was like, where is Fireball? So now we have that all set up. We have a lot of really good kit built into this, and level 6 is where our damage is going to change here. So I'll just choose a deity. What? Oh, I was like, wait, I was like a deity. What am I doing? Level up. There we go. I was like, that doesn't make sense. This is what I was talking about. So when you cast a spell that deals damage of the type associated with your Draconic ancestry, in this case it's fire, you add your Charisma modifier to the damage. Charisma modifier right now is 19. Hopefully at this point you have gotten the Hag's Hair, which would put this at 20, meaning our Charisma modifier is 5. I said our Charisma modifier is 19. I meant it's 4. So that is now going to be a +5 to all of our damage. And that means Scorching Ray, if you use the ability to cast it and cast an additional target, it will get +20 overall flat damage, right? Because it's going to get that modifier added into the damage. If you just hurl 3 rays at a target, it'll do 2d6, but it's 2d6 plus 5, 2d6 plus 5, 2d6 plus 5. So again, if you were to look at this all together, it would be 6d6 plus 15. That's the amount of damage. That's why this is such a cool build, because it really leans on all that awesome damage. Into some other abilities though here. Haste is really great. We have some fun with that. Leveling up even further. Oh, also too, we get resistance. So you can spend 1 sorcery point to gain resistance to that damage type if you so wish. Another spell here into level 7. A lot of really good ones. Confusion is so strong. Greater invisibility is really strong. Stone Skin's great, but I'm going to go with Wall of Fire here just because it's a nice ability to have. You can swap out something like... These are all pretty good. I'd probably just keep that as is. But for our level 8 spell, we can go ahead and probably pick up Confusion at this point. If you need more defense, you can go with Stone Skin if you really want. Confusion is just a great way to control the entire field. Just keep in mind, it is a... concentration ability, so it will conflict with casting Hold Person. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Now, our next ability here is Elemental Adept Fire. So your spells ignore resistance to a damage type of your choice. This is the point in the game when you're going to start to encounter a lot of fire resistance, and this shuts that off. And then when you cast a spell of that type, you cannot roll a 1. So this basically guarantees us that that we'll never just outright fail, right? Because a 1 is a critical failure. So that's at level 8. We're pretty good to go there. Our charisma is just bumping and rumping, and we'll go ahead and level up further. Choose a new spell here. Cloud Kill, Cone of Cold, Dominate Person, and Hold Monster are all accessible. You can even just kind of keep going, though, with like our level 4 capabilities. You don't need to jump into a level 5 one right here. Remember, you are a sorcerer, so you're locked here unless you actually level up. So go with whatever's going to make sense for the character, what's going on. You could even kind of backtrack a little bit and go, you know what? I'd really like to get a little bit more mobility into this build. Let me go with Misty Step. You know, it's a level 2, but I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of things you could just do in this situation. Don't feel locked into having to get a level 5 spell. And I'm going to show you why in just a second here. Let's go with... It's really cool. Well, you know, I'm going to go with Dimension Door because it's like a better Misty Step. Only Dimension Door you cast with an action versus a bonus action in Misty Step. I just mean you can cast it with multiple people, which is nice about it. But I'm going to remove Hold Person, and I'm going to swap it with Hold Monster. It's using a level 5 spell slot, but it can apply to more things, and that's why I'm doing it in this case. I still think Hold Person's really good. That's what I meant. Like, you don't need to always focus on the highest level. You can still, there's ways to kind of have fun with different directions. Level 10 gives us another meta magic spell, so we're going to go here with I like Distance Spell a lot. You know what? No, I'm going to go Heighten Spell. That way I can really make sure like my Scorching Rays really hit whatever it is, right? And again, you can go with whatever you want spell-wise. I keep saying whatever you want because I'm like, I don't know what your party makeup is going to look like, right? That's going to determine a lot of these spells. I'll click Fear for whatever reason I clicked Fear. I don't know why I did that. We'll go slow maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to, a lot of my spell options typically kind of coincide with what else is going on in the game as far as what I have with me, whatever it is. So I'll just click Wall Stone. That'll do for right now. Acid Splash, level up, choose spell. We got our level 6s. Chain Lightning is so good. Disintegrate is so damn good. Global Vulnerability is awesome, but we're going to go with Sunbeam because that is going to do some additional radiant damage and fire damage for us. I believe it does both. It's here's my. I thought it showed me the actual damage characteristic right there, but you'll be fine with just that. And then you can swap off another spell here for whatever you'd like. But now at level 11 we get Fly, so now we can actually outright fly as a Draconic Ancestry Sorcerer, which is cool. And again, here, Global Vulnerability, Disintegrate. Disintegrate's really great because it's force damage. It's probably just one of the best abilities you can choose. Now, for your last feat here, you can go with Alert. You can go with Dual Wielding. A lot of people recommend dual wielding and going with the Staff of Power and Mako Sheko Shekashir. The staff, that staff, you just have it amplify your fire damage, and you will be doing a disgusting amount of damage because you're further adding more casting modifiers into this build. It is really good, and also you're going to get some additional armor class on this, right? That is really the way to go with this build. It's pretty straightforward once you kind of look at all of it, and you're going to be melting things. Absolutely melting things. And the biggest thing that you need is the Hat of Fire Acuity. Whenever you deal fire damage, you gain Arcane Acuity for 2 turns, and Arcane Acuity is just going to be through the roof, because with that active, every single time you do damage with your ray, it's going to get those 2 turns, right? So that's 6 turns right there. And whenever you have it active, you have a +1 bonus to spell attack rolls and spell save DC for each remaining turn. So 1 cast of Ray of Fire puts 6 turns on you. That's a +6 to your attack rolls and spell save DC. You'll never miss again with the Hat of Fire Acuity. The Spine Shudder Amulet, when the wearer deals damage with a ranged spell attack, inflict 2 turns of reverb on the target just to kind of knock them over. But this is another example of, you go ahead and cast Ray of Fire, Scorching Ray. I don't know if I'm saying Ray of Fire, Scorching Ray, and then you just knock something on their ass if they didn't save their dex save, right? That's 6 stacks into it. It's gonna do thunder damage into them. It's gonna knock them on their ass. And just early items you can use, it's simply Mel's First Staff, +1 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. This is all Act 1 shit. Like, this is all really easy to get, turn online, the character's good to go. Act 2 for Kethric's Shield. Eventually, you want to get something like Mako Sheko Shekoshir. There you go. I know I mispronounced it. I don't know what the hell how you pronounce that. Marco Heshkir. +1 spell save DC, the arcane battery to alleviate casting. You cast your Kreska's favor on your ability and on your specific element, and it gives you spells. It's just an amazing staff. And you duel this with the Staff of Power. I think it's Staff of Spell Power, which now gives you +1 more bonus to your spell save DC. Alleviate the arcane burden, so you can cast a ton of max level spells. It is so good. It is so good to just kind of chain these two together and have so much destructive capability as a Draconic, Fire Draconic Sorcerer. Our last class to talk about is a Moon Druid. And the reason I'm talking about a Moon Druid is because it's actually quite strong after patch 3, which made it so that you actually properly ignore magic resistance or physical resistance. But what I also like about it is the least cumbersome class to add into any party composition, in the sense that if you have 2 or 3 classes that have a ton of synergy, this class isn't going to take away from them, because there's so few things that actually the Moon Druid needs item wise that other classes need as well, right? Because there's so little competition, because almost nothing works. Which brings me to my next point. I'm going to provide you a link to the BG3 wiki. This gentleman made this all on a Reddit post at one point, but it was now compiled here onto this wiki. And now you can see the things that work in Wild Shape, the things that partially work in Wild Shape, and the things that just outright are not going to work. But what's nice about this is, if you want to not just do a simple pure Moon Druid, I have a Barbarian Moon Druid build that I'm going to link in the upper right hand corner. You can see exactly what works. Okay, the Barbarian Rage works, but you just got to do it before you transform. Draconic Bloodline works, but again, if you were wearing no armor before transforming and base armor form is less than 13, like, you have some stipulations, but this helps you for equipment. Which is already, I've saved this in the build already so you can see it. It helps you with feats. So you know what? Alert is actually really good because it works for this build. Or stuff like Savage Attacker works if you are shapeshifting into a Myrmidon. So you can take advantage of a lot of these things, and it's really cool that you can get all this online and you just have all this as a resource for whatever you need. Because feat options are always kind of funky, because you're a Moon Druid, so you're going to spend most of your time in Druid shape, or Wild Shape, but at the same time you are still a Druid, so you can cast spells, so you can take advantage of some of the stuff here and hopefully have them overlap. So let's move back over to here. Race, again, choose whatever you want. It's a Druid, I'll go with an elf and a wood elf, because, you know, whatever themes. And abilities, it's not gonna matter for the Druid, right? Or for the Wild Shape, but we're doing this for the actual Druid. So we'll do this to get ourselves into some goodness here and get our dexterity up. You know, actually, yeah, we'll do that. And put a little, just 2 more points into charisma, because while it will be nice to have, here, do this. Like, the increase to our wisdom is not necessarily going to help out our Wild Shape, right? So might as well have a little bit more charisma. This is going to be your face character. Have a little bit more fun with it. We're not going to get tons of benefit from anything on this menu so much. It's just purely going to be the spells we're going to cast before we go into Wild Shape, if we do. You might just pop right into Wild Shape immediately. And our class, of course, is going to be Druid. Cantrips. It's guidance. It's always going to be guidance, right? Shillelagh is actually really strong. Thorn Whip to actually displace things. Whatever you're going to want to go with here. Choose whatever you'd like. Shillelagh is cool if you want to get a little pretty... If you're out of Wild Shape form and you want to do a little damage, this is cool because it deals 1d8 plus spellcasting ability modifier damage and uses your spellcasting ability attack for attack rolls. So, but you only can do this on a staff or a club. It's just a cool way to add some damage into the character if you're out of Wild Shape, because early in the game, it's very easy to be out of Wild Shape, so Shillelagh is really cool. I can't tell you when I was a kid, I used to pronounce this Shalaga. I don't know, I was not smart. Circle of the Moon gives us our combat Wild Shapes. You can use your Wild Shape as a bonus action instead, which is huge. And we get, is it Bear? Yeah, Bear is what we get access to right away as our Wild Shape. And also 2 Lunar Mend, which just keeps us in a Wild Shape. And remember, too, with Wild Shape, if you die in Wild Shape, you just go back to being a normal Druid. So it basically gives you a lot of lives and survivability, which is really cool, too, in Honor mode. It's a classic and kind of a little bit be on its own and not have to worry so much about, oh, I can't have this character doing anything because they're not going to come online until they get gear. The character's good immediately. And remember too, that I'll show this chart in a little bit. The wild shape does have certain types of breakpoints and certain types of other things that we can take advantage of. So we'll go ahead and go with that. Level up again, level 3. You're going to get spells. You just choose whatever is going to make sense here, right? Like Moonbeam's great. Just cast Moonbeam before you go into Wild Shape. Hold Person's great. Cast it before you go into Wild Shape. Spike Growth, awesome. Do it before Wild Shape. Because you can cast these spells and they will maintain. Just keep in mind, you want to make sure that they're done beforehand. Even this one, Flaming Sphere. Flaming Sphere is pretty damn good. Just use it before. And now you have another Flaming Sphere. You can move around the battlefield. Level 4 gives us more cantrips. Do whatever you wish. Whatever makes sense for you. Just choosing one at random. At level 4, though, we also get the Deep Rothchild. Don't know what it is. Dire Raven as well. And our feet. Now, you can think just going to ability improvement is the way to go. Not necessarily. You can go with Alert, which is actually very good. Remember, this also works in our Wild Shape form. It's not as crucial in Wild Shape form unless you're sticking in Wild Shape form in between fights. More often than not, if it's your face character, you're going to pull yourself out of Wild Shape when you go to like talk to people potentially. So just kind of keep that in mind. Just refer back to this list, feats, of the things that do work in Wild Shape. Lucky works in Wild Shape and outside, and it's a really, really good capability. Mobile works in both. So there's really cool abilities that we can pull into this. You could just go with improved ability score, but just remember that does not help out in Wild Shape. But what does, and we're going to show you why in just a little bit, is resilience. Did this break it up into the individuals? Yeah. So we can go resilience constitution, and we can go back here, and I could have actually done like this instead. Actually, no, do this. Do that instead. So now our constitution will be at 18 rather than the 17 it was before, right? So you can do that if you want to kind of have this be a certain way, or do it like this, and it'll be whatever. The big thing is we don't care about our stats. We care about the fact that this carries over. Resilient, the +1 bonus to any stat and save proficiency persists in Wild Shape. And why this is important is, here are all of our Wild Shape stats. Look at the constitution for the Owlbear, which is arguably one of the strongest and the most popular of the owl of the shapes. Well, putting our constitution up by 1 gives us 18. It gives us an actual additional bonus to constitution. If I did strength, it wouldn't really help us out. Same thing with dexterity. The saber-toothed tiger is another one it's another really strong one here that benefits from having that constitution. So I really like constitution. I think it's a really good one to do. Down the line at the end, we'll get access to the Myrmidons. Then you can it's going to help out with the Earth Myrmidon, which is great. I don't think it helps the fire. Oh, it does help the fire one too. So I think constitution is the best one to put in, especially early. And on top of this, it helps you out with advantage on anything. You increase an ability by 1 to a max of 20 and gain proficiency in that ability's saving throw. I'm sorry, I thought it gave advantage. It does not. So this adds your proficiency to maintain the concentration of all the spells you've put yourself into for your Wild Shape, all the concentration. So into this, we get Wild Strike. So now we get an additional strike. We get Sleet Storm, which is whatever. Feign Death. Plant Growth is the big one in this list. Also, Call Lightning, Rocks. Level 6 gives us Primal Strike. So now your counts count as magical, so you can don't have to worry about resistance to slashing, piercing, or bludgeoning. And we get access to Owlbear, which you will probably use the entirety of this build. Level 7 gives us great spells like Confusion. You can summon up a Conjure Woodland Being is really awesome because you cast this and it's there. You just have it. Also, you can do Conjure Minor Elementals. So you can actually have some summons up while you're in elemental form, which is really cool. The Woodland Being is really, really fun. The Wood Woad is cool. We're going to get Nymph down the line too. And into 8, we choose another feat here. Saber-toothed Tiger is also another Wild Shape. We're going to choose Alert because it's one that works. Again, just choose what you want for whatever you're kind of doing here. 9, we get Conjure Elemental, which is really, really good. Planner Binding is always really is great here. Improved wild strikes. You can make 2 additional attacks after making an unarmed strike with wild and wild shape. So you get even stronger here. Choose a cantrip. Doesn't matter. But now we get access to the wild shape Water Myrmidon, Fire, Earth, and Air. Any of the other Power Rangers. Dilophosaurus, which is cool as a kind of ranged combatant. Corrosive Spit can dissolve target's AC. A level 11 gives us access to Hero's Feast, Sunbeam, Wall of Thorns. I mean, it's cool to cast Sunbeam, then just go into Wild Shape. Cast Hero's Feast, help everyone out with their HP, then go into Wild Shape. Like, do whatever you want there. You know, I have a lot of really cool capabilities. Our last one, level 12. I'm going to say go like Savage Attacker. Where is it? Just to assume you're going to go with something like, if you want to use any of the Myrmidons at any time. I think everyone always says go with the Owlbear and nothing but the Owlbear. But no, man, if you do that, the class is going to be boring. Have fun, choose different wild shapes. And I also encourage you to explore portions of the game that take advantage of the wild shapes. And this is what makes the Moon Druid so cool, is the Moon Druid can go into those little things that says, oh, this is too small for a human to go through. Wild shape into a cat and walk right through it. It's a really awesome thing. Or you can't get it somewhere, wild shape into a Dire Raven and go fly over there. Like, really have fun with these. Don't just stick on the min-max option of strictly sticking with an Owlbear. It's really strong and it's really good. And the Saber-Tooth Tiger is also fucking awesome. But you can have so much fun with all the wide range of things available to you. So do it. Don't just stick with what the internet tells you is good, because it usually is just fucking boring. Into our spells or everything like that. We have all those fun actions. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I don't think I illustrated this enough. Savage Attacker, because it works. Only works with wild shapes that wield weapons. You could go with Sentinel, though, too. Fully works with wild shapes that wield weapons. Only the passive works for wild shapes that don't wield weapons. So you can take advantage of this and be able to get the opportunity advantage, the snare, the vengeance on them, whatever. Mobile's another good option here. There, Lucky, whatever you really want to take advantage of in those instances. You can even go with Elemental Adept if you want to be still more of a caster in the times you're not in wild shape. And for our items, like I said, you don't have any real competing items here. This is the Armor of Moonbasking, which is meant for being in wild shape. You gain 22 temp hit points. You get that in Act 3. It's super far away. Another Act 3 item is Shapeshifter Hat, plus an additional wild shape charge. The Martial Exertion Gloves are only here because this works as long as you do it before going into wild shape. Get it in Act 3. Don't worry about it. Boots of Striding, I think, are in Act 1. When you cast a spell that requires concentration, which you can cast before wild shape as always, you gain momentum for 1 turn, and while you're concentrating, you cannot be pushed or get knocked prone, which is great for wild shape. The Corvid token, I'm putting it here just because it works in wild shape. It's there. And also the Shapeshifter's Boon Ring. While shapeshifting or disguising yourself, gain a 1d4 bonus to all ability checks. Really, really nice one. So it's a very, very simple build. It's very straightforward, and it doesn't compete with anyone. So just turn it on and have a good time. I think it's the one that got really good after patch 3. Not even like it didn't break the game good, but it competes enough in I don't know what just happened. If you heard that, it was not your computer, it was mine. It doesn't compete with the S tier of a Storm Sorcerer or a Fire Sorcerer or the Storm Tempest Cleric Sorcerer or anything like that, but it's solid and it's great. And like I said, it doesn't compete with anything, and it's so on the rails. You just have it do its own thing. You're not going to wait for it to come online. It just gets better and better, and gets like exponentially better once you hit stuff like 6 or get that extra set of extra attacks. It's a really fun build, and I definitely encourage it. So at that, it brings our video here to a close. And go ahead and let me know in the comment section below, what would you recommend to people who want to do pure mono classes and just simply go, hey, I only want to stick with 12 levels of Paladin, which is great. You could go 12 levels of Cleric and not do Light Cleric. You can do damn near any Cleric and still be a really strong Cleric. I didn't really talk about any of the throwing classes because I think they're all talked about way too much on the internet. But any of the throwing classes are really fun. I've got videos on them. You can do those. You can even mix in multi-classing at the very end. Like an 11, a 10 Light Cleric, 2 Wizard is really strong. That's one of the builds that I did, and what's so nice about it is you now have access to a bunch of wizard spells on top of your cleric spells. It is so dominating. So have fun with this, enjoy. But at the same time, recommend anything to anyone below. I would not recommend 12 levels into Rogue. That's, I think, the one class that people unanimously say don't take 12 full levels into. It's just not as fun. There's a lot of other different ways you could approach this stuff, though, right? Warlock, I didn't talk about Warlock once in this video. This is the first time I mentioned it. Pure Blade Warlock is still quite fun, quite good. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one, and take care.